tu ye ke wuchin khasatil te katuhan ade ayat khinya chaye kukin ki chakut yede katu ak yata yakh awe te khinya ki dafa kaika an katushit at kutzeti ye awe khan katunik ya kutzegi at awe we ka he khasakko yat it hat chulkhine ag asx'eit de wooch art ʼahaa ye and the cage al'oon de woogu al'oon de woo art al'oon wooch was out to al'oon where ʼukahaa ya ach kani hitli ish khanachwe ashagu ka de al'oon ya khatqa chaye ko denk ya ach tu ye ke khoa ya hashil ko hasat khair qa khatushi Gwashi saku we at gutú yik ye ti llill da'iq hoots gwall ayanach yik e sa at gutú yik yatsinid gwall chul an a gutji at gutú yik de gwall at gutú yik de an a gutti shukwat yik e awe hastu ya de yuchi yatani ya hoots kwani Kesh isaiq po an hastu sai ye awe kheka khagag yakheti yuchatang kek de hina wa khwaach ya lily white khedach hashil kohas chade hanayu yine khide gachtu art ya hashugun hastu at khai sakqa gachtushi Keshatwa ashku khane tuye ti dat Keshatwa ashku yutu setini hayet ki kaidat khankian ajawi chade hanayu ya yeki utusuku aya yineshi aya Gulchi shui tullaani, gulchi shui haiti dishi, hashil kohas, hatagu konkian adeskunugu ye, chayegu gengi tusuku adat. Hatuwasaku ko hastu yach yekogachtus tii, yajawe yach hayati, the thing at ka, awe, hashagenia, hashagun, haiti dishi yagi. Ishana we uhan hatuwasagu ko awutu satini ya hashil ko has at khasako ye awekul chish haiti dishich at the katat at yawani a jich to teach at the katat ya shinket ka ya chadasa itwasagu chadat yaksa ye yukatangi kunach ye ke ko a ya was ya kikti kuch Aguch sa gwash at would it at yikt we at gatuch ko a yikte cookie good shukwa you hatank at kakisha yech ye oe ha iu dutli tu ha ye oe ach tu wati ya gwash chak oe has it was a good hagao dane yuche watan adat you took the tan gwash Achu ye hasuwaji. Oh gosh, we go con isakwa ka adach ka kwashi. Like keka ko kagang. Wuchi neje to need at the cut that trinket on a car. Ye awe at yawani jich to tea. Yaha you katangi team. Kahakagang. Ye awe adat you took a tongue ayagi. Just clean the age. Ye awe at what to a kuch. Kutsnu de. Yet keka yaw to woodlock where heatly ish yasat unity nasjan kat you do sago at rifleman yachya team away woodlock ʻUkeha, ya dahu ninach. What ke jini nachawi uhan? Yats uta. Kuchu tu kuchu. Ya has tu adewu kuch. Khatqa hota. Khatsa. Kwasaku. Yini jekwane yahana. Kalchisha khiti sa ahi. Kalchish. Washi tuasagu yakhayatan. Elpasa. Aqa. Wuchine jekachtune.
Riding shotgun away.
Yeah, away. Yeah, away. Atwas kuchu. Keda kaya kachitikach. Keda is next to the base of. Keda ku'uwu. Hakeda ku'uwu is our neighbors. Okay.
Ďatsenet reasoning.
Yeah. The way it was explained to me is you could say hoots until you're out in the woods, and then you say yatsinate.
Yeah.
You could say hoots kwani if you're kind of praying to them. But like once you enter that forest, you should really switch to. So yatsinate means a living thing. It's kind of a code word, I guess, for a bear. We don't usually say their name in the woods, because the way I was taught is if you say their name, they're gonna come. They'll be like, yeah, what you want. And so, what else was I saying? Help me translate myself.
I heard something about ḥusteeyí and like hunting, and then a bunch of animal names I heard.
Yeah. So we were hunting deer today. I really like this. There's a couple things. Well, I like. Let's see, how do I say this? So there's this thing you can do, and we're going to talk about a few grammar things. But you could say "kewa'a," and you could say "woogoot," and these are kind of similar things. And so, not similar in terms of what they say, but similar in terms of how the grammar works. So, what does "kewa'a" translate to?
Isn't that like
it's arrived?
Morning.
Morning, yes. But specifically,
isn't that from like saying ḥukahaa?
you could
Like-
say "suhaka kewa'a."
Like a new dawn is broken.
Yeah. So you could say "suhaka kewa'a," which is the daylight broke on us again. And then so kewa'a would be the day broke, it dawned, the sun rose. And so this ke is daybreak, and it's built right into the verb. It's a thematic prefix. There's I guess a different one, which is this, hiwa'at, which would be it dusked. Is that how it say? It became dusk. Blah. So with kewa'a, and what about wugud?
They went.
They went, they walked, they went. So these are totally different verbs. They're talking about totally different things. But both of these are na conjugation verbs, right? And so you can't really say qina'a. I guess if you're trying to boss around the sun and the universe, qina'a, which would be break the dawn. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, talking to Raven, trying to get him to open the box. He said, which is a little different. And so I might break the daylight on you all. Fancy talk for being a raven. However, you could say na h. So you could say na h. I'm going to try and be a good person here and check my stem variation. So we're going to go look for which I think is here. And oops, that's the wrong verb. That's probably high. Kind of H, so it's a high tone. Okay, I should know that. Okay, so kind of H, and you can also say, oops, let me, nagutch. And now, what are these things doing?
They're happening a lot.
Yes, and so there was a question before we recorded, which is what's the difference between repetitive and habitual? And repetitive is it happens regularly, and habitual is it happens all the time. So it's more frequency, right? So like if I make oatmeal every single morning is oatmeal with fried egg on top of it. That's my breakfast every single day. That's a habitual. If it's like once a week, that's regular. So it's regular and all the time. These are all the time verbs. And we're going to look at what the difference is between these when you sort of put them together. So kinda H is it does that verb all the time. So how would we translate that?
It broke every time.
Yeah, the day always breaks. It always dawns. Like, I don't know. The sun rises every day. So it's a good phrase to like get out of a funk if you're in a funk. Maybe. What about nakutch?
He always walks. They always walk.
They always walk. They always go. So there's this fun thing, and I only bring this up because I was using it a couple different times. So we have this, and we could say, I do think these are going to change a little bit. So if we go look up what happens when we say, okay, so there's the daybreak, but there's keshkina H as well. And then if we go to a gut verb, there's nagutch and kesh unagutch. Some of them get the in there, some of it kind of disappears. So we're going to say kesh kina H and kesh unagutch. So we have put not in front of it, but the meaning is going to change quite a bit. This does not go always, never. Do we know what it does?
Not yet.
Yes. So not yet. So if you go negative habitual, well, once you learn how to make a habitual, if you put kesh in front of it, which usually means you have to put an irialis in there as well. But then you're going to get not yet. So kesh kina H. How would we translate that?
It hasn't dawned yet.
Yes, it hasn't, dawned yet. And kesh unagutch.
They haven't gone yet.
Yeah, and usually we would have like an ade or an adach in front of it, right? Okay. So there's this other thing, which is not the most common thing. But if I put ch in front of this, what's going to happen is it's going to force this kesh to contract to just the letter L. And then I'm going to add a suffix here. And when I add that suffix, this becomes a J. Oops. So ch kina ag would be Have we done this before? Does anyone know what this does now?
Before it on.
And then you could take this one as well and do the same thing. And so I use both of these. So before the daybreak, we went hunting. And when you're using this could be like, it could be in all the type, it could be all the time. So they'll say, they might say, which we were talking about a little bit earlier, a hardworking person. I guess you'd probably say, a hardworking person always gets up before the ravens. But who gets up that early? I did today, but that's not a habitual thing, I'll tell you that. So you do the same thing here. So you say, so that would be before they go there. Before they went there, before they go there. So these ones, they can work like sort of a once sort of a thing, but they often work in like a before this thing happens. So they'll say, we're going to sing a spirit song before the ravens wake up. So this happens at ʼqusteeyí. I was taught that you let the ravens know why the people are still awake, so they don't get confused. But and what I had said is ʼatudli.átk. I guess you'd say ʼatudli.átk on a gutú. Whoops. So this is kind of funky, and we're going to backtrack a little bit. But so we know some of these things, like you'll say woogoot, and you can say ḥwagoot, and you can say wootuaat, and you could say yegoot, and you could say ye-art. You could say, I guess I'll move these guys down there. And then huswoot, and then you could say our. Well, you can say our, well, hold on. Our goot, and you can say our art. So, we should recognize what these things are doing. How would I translate ḥwagoot?
They already walked.
It's not they.
I walked.
I walked.
I walked. I don't know why I said they.
Wootuaat. We walked. We walked. Ye goot. Ye walked. You walked.
We all walked. No,
Ye art.
we all walked.
There you go. You all walked. Woogoot.
Singular, they walked.
Huswoot.
They all walked.
Our good.
Woogoot.
What's left? Let's just go there. What's left? What did we not do yet?
Our though.
Hmm?
People went, but that's all. A person went.
Someone went.
Someone went.
And what about, and so our art,
Someone plural went.
right? And this some, in this case, wouldn't be like some of the people. It's like people went, right? And so this is what the fourth person looks like sometimes, oftentimes, an emotion verb is a in the object space, just to make our lives more complicated. So when I say ʼatudli.átk ana gutú, we yatsinate in you ʼatudli.átk. ʼatudli ana gutú, we yatsinate in you ʼatudli.átk. What is that saying? It's an important cultural concept.
Just before they went into the woods, they talked, they conversed with asx'eit.
Yes. Before people go into the woods, they converse with the Yetzirah. And so this is to recap at the beginning of class, but when we started recording, I was talking about going hunting this morning with ḳusteeyí and some others. And then I was talking about leaving before the day breaks, going by boat over to ʰusteeyí, the east side of ʰusteeyí. I'm sure there's a name. I don't know the name of the places at all we went. They all have Tlingit names. But then I said, before we went into the forest, I talked to, well, the boss of the forest. And so the way that I had seen it done, I watched this recording of the White, and she stood up and she said, ḥusteeyí. That's how she talked to them. And then some of the things that you generally say to translate some of the things that I was saying, we're going to walk into your home. Please forgive us. We're going for the food of our ancestors. We don't want you to be upset. And we're just trying to live like our ancient people used to live. And we don't want to see you or your kids or your grandkids, which is why we're saying, please forgive us. All the things that we go after with respect. And then I was thinking about it after I was done talking, and I thought some people might think, because when we went this morning, I said it real quiet. I was just talking to myself. I was like, I gotta say it before we go in. But if you watch the video of some of the older people do it, or when I've seen some of the older people do it that I've gone out into the woods with, it's a prayer. It's like you talk in this elevated, you're louder, and you're also like, so if I was talking Tlingit, I might say, and so that would be sort of my storytelling cadence, I guess. And if I was just talking to someone, it'd probably be more relaxed. And then if I'm doing that sort of elevated thing, which could be a similar sort of style for public, performative, medicinal speech making, but also like if you're standing in the woods talking to the Yetzirah. And it's got this sort, it's kind of loud and it's kind of a higher register type of thing. But then I thought maybe some people would think, well, aren't you going to scare everything away by yelling before you go into the woods? And I think no, because it's about, I think, and this is getting into philosophy of how to live on the land, but I think when you're out there hunting, you're in a relationship with the things that you're hunting. And you're giving them respect, and they're giving you food. And they would call it ʼukahaa, something we could kill, because you're killing something. But then you're going to bring it home and eat it. And this is something people have done in this area for a long, long time. And not everybody hunts. Not everybody wants to go, re-kill some pretty things. And so, but it's also like done in a very respectful way. So some of the things. Yahasusha ach wooch ʼatudli.átk awa ḥusteeyí. You remove the heads and then you have the heads facing back into the forest. And so there's a lot of cultural teachings with this stuff, and I think it's important to talk about it in Tlingit as we get back into our regular business. Any thoughts or?
Yeah. That actually went full circle to my original question I asked. When I was saying ʼatudli.átk reasoning, I was curious because in my thoughts, like Tonk used to say, you got to talk to them in Tlingit because they understand. And it's more like reasoning. And I'm wondering if there's a word in Tlingit that's reasoning.
Oh, that's a good, yeah, I don't like,
Reasoning.
I guess the
'Cause I was,
root would be achawe, but then it's got to be tied to something else.
if I
And
was just saying ʼatudli.átk wuchin kwanik kwaach ʼatudli.átk katnik. And I was trying to figure out, there's got to be something that they were, because talking to them like that.
yeah, I mean, you probably just end up with Llingit ḳusteeyí. And but then, you know, when we talk about these things too, then I think you got to tie in a whole bunch of things like chashtakatat ayakwaheya qokutzeti, ajoytikatat at yawune jichtuti. So there's a spirit in everything, and that's why we give respect to all things. And that was repetitive mode.
Would reasoning be related to Ţukahaa?
Yeah, yes.
Thinking?
Tsingetundetani would be another way to say it. And so these things are like Tlingit ḳusteeyí, the way of the Tlingit people and the Tlingit way of thinking. One time someone asked me what, my kids are pretty small. I think the two youngest were 3, maybe 2.5, and then just a newborn baby. And someone said, what's your son's English name? I said, well, it's not English, it's a Persian name. His name is Darian. And I was putting them into their car seats. And Ava turned to me and she says, I think Kaja. And that was very fun. It's so cute. Cute little Shingish. Okay.
Hey,
So, Kune, years ago, they did a video of a bunch of elders going back to Glacier Bay to do some traditional berry picking. And in that video, Amy Marvin starts out by doing the talk to the critters in the woods. And anyway, I put a link to that video in the chat.
Oh, finished cheese. That's fabulous. I'll put it on our class page as well.
And you were talking about Lily White as well? Is that the one you were talking about?
Well, maybe it was Amy Marvin. It could be. I thought it was Lily White. And maybe,
I thought you were saying somebody. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought it was, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Maybe this is the same video.
Okay.
Chico?
just Ďukahaa dlagi Ganchki Astu Jeet Yiti Mankas Chadasa I'll try one more time in Tlingit. Ďukahaa Yadlagi Ganch Ki Hastu Jeet Yiti Chadasa Mankas Chadasa.
Xasatin one kanins kanchata yehas usus. I don't know if that's the right verb. Ka hin hastu chete katusacha one kanins katsa tsu ka hastu sha ach shaduchashi aka we or ach wuduchashi. Shaduchashi would be to give him a haircut. Ach wuduchashi ka atkatuyikte de yin yewe yidusni. And then they put the head facing into the forest. So it's like a respect thing. Both of those are respectful things. And so sometimes yes, sometimes no. But yeah, that's a really good way to think about it, is to give. Usually, like if you're harvesting, you could give tobacco before you go into the forest. So it's like symbolically, you could do it at the site of the harvest. And that could be whether you're harvesting ḳukahaa or asx'eit, or țikshaltin. And so the same, I've heard similar things like achawi you do wooch, or achawi you to wooch. You could say this is why you were cut. This is why we cut you. Hatu nagu saku. So saku is a really good thing. I think in those situations, it's an adjective. It means it's going to become this thing. So ha'atchai saku, what will become our food. Hanagu saku, what will become our medicines. And so a lot of times the two things that can really be given in those instances are tobacco and water. And I always, when I go into the woods, I try to always carry teach. Yeah, we want to to us ago. Akade away I think that's the right. I think is to scatter it. Gwashtu askatu yik ye ti ka gwash we kesh eu saku ka yisatin ka jayeko gink kasiye hesh ka you has watank just you has kawana yatayach ka away or like you has kawa ka Kanchaya has du jide. Kanchke etuati. Gwash adachas likwaguk. Kushta ka awe. Kashas du toa ashku. Eek ka kanch. Ka kwat se hoach. Ach tu asagu yan khatu nei. Gwash atkatu yikte kakwaguti. Yeah, so I think tobacco is a really good thing to have when you're going out into the woods because maybe you want to make an offering for something. And so for that, like if I was harvesting tz'acht, by the first harvest, I would usually put some tobacco down and some water. If I'm going hunting, before I go into the woods, I might put some tobacco down and some water. Or I might do it at the site of the kill. It kind of depends. It's moment to moment, I guess. But also you might see someone out in the woods that you don't know. And maybe it gets a little, just feels funny. Like the thing that I was taught to look for is they don't really talk. They just gesture. You might hear some whistling, especially if it's getting dark. And then you offer them tobacco. And if they run away, then it's a ḳusteeyí. So, yeah, oh, ʼatudli too.
Cheers.
Okay. Okay. Other language questions, things you've been thinking about?
Yes. If you were to want to say, a bear mauled him and killed him, would you say, ḳukahaa?
I would say, well, I guess there's two different ways I would say, if I wanted to just kind of get right to the point, and again, I want to recognize this is sensitive because it does happen, and it did happen. I don't want to, okay, now I don't want a green, hold on, let me change my color. So to get like kind of the most direct way you could say it is you could say wooch, uwajak. So that would be a direct way to do it. You could also say, because you could say hoots, do, eat, ju de gut, ha, our, junk. So, but these are really good, like, these are examples of how the third person sometimes requires clarification in Tlingit. Because you could say hoots do eat ju de gut. That's pretty clear that the bear did the attacking. But then you might, my expectation, if you just said this sentence to me, I would say the bear attacked him and killed him. But what if he killed the bear, right? Which is possible. So you could say hoots, do eat. And so jiu de gut means to attack. Jiu de gut. Hooch kwa. Awajak. They hoots. So this is how, if the person was able to do it. There's certain things that can default in Tlingit, right? And so if we take this, you say hoots, guwakan, awajak. And this is where things do, this is something a little bit unexpected, I think, for Tlingit. So we know right here, we have object, subject, classifier, stem, right? They killed. If we put it in this order with the specifying nouns, it actually goes subject, noun, object, noun, and then awajak. If you switch that word order, I think it would probably want you to do that. And then once you do that, technically, there's this other kind of weird, interesting thing that happens. So we have, this is what we have. So we have object, subject, classifier, jak. But when we have this ch there, right before the verb, it's going to trigger that to go back to a 0 for some reason. And that's why you would end up with hoots or jak.
Okay, last question I got. In the Tlingit dictionary, dominate, that is not the proper word for this, correct?
Yeah, so this, it's a metaphor. So this one you'd say, so we could find this one in, it's probably in here. Oops, I'm looking at Marvel. Yeah, so this is to overpower someone. And this means like you put the brown bear inside yourself. That's really kind of what it means. Well, I guess like you became, I don't know. Then so here you'd have du'in shkaut lechutz. And so this is used for like, well, it means to overpower. So if you see here, Ḳukahaa at'loon wuguti chutz tut akaut ledut du'in shkaut lechutz. A person went hunting alone and called, a brown bear, and it tried to overpower him. Well, it didn't say it tried; it said it did. And so again, like I don't think that person survived that sentence. And so, but this is also like our basketball team just, or I don't know, somebody dominated somebody in sports, I'm sure this weekend, and so you could use this for that. Or you could just, if you say, you could say, here's the future, du'in shkak hoods. I am going to dominate them. And, it depends on what, I don't know, maybe you're going to go beat them up or something, but maybe you're just going to go, it depends on the context is so much. Like if you and I are going to go have a big debate in front of everybody, and I might say, in shkak, which isn't very humble, but saying, I'm going to dominate you. But who knows? It's good.
I'm standing next to that guy while we're hunting.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, that could, but you could say like, I mean, that's literally what would happen is you could use it for a bear attack, but usually if I was just to talk about a bear attack, I'd probably say, hoots good. And then you could say, and so some of these things, like we want to be very respectful with our language, which is really good to learn how to do. So for some of these things, you might end up kind of talking around these things, which is, always good to do if it has just happened. So you could say awatun hoots kwa judagut. And then you could say klesh equbu. They didn't come back. You could also say hooch, de hooch. So that's another way. Is like sometimes these things, you end up talking around them, which English does the same thing. You say they didn't make it. You know, or you could say, oh, I was thinking about this. I don't know why. Oh, I was thinking of a story, I guess. And I was thinking, I can't remember how, but you could say, so this is a verb, you could say, she kukas neich. I will survive. So to survive something would be, so you could say, klesh shwusneich. This is heavy stuff, but I think, you know, I know some of my teachers in the past wouldn't want us talking about this stuff, but I believe we need to know how to talk about this stuff because our language would be used for things like we are people who live right near the woods. We always have. And, you know, things happen, all kinds of things. People slip, fall, all kinds of things happen. We don't want those things to happen. But also we just need to recognize that there's a reason why it's a ḥusteeyí and ḥusteeyí They survived with this language, right? Okay, we should do some more story.
You were talking about something with verbs right before class started too, with different conjugations.
Yes, okay, that's right. Let me back way up in my notes. Okay, so I think we were talking about a couple of, so ʼatudli.átk is for someone to be a hard worker. ʼqusteeyí is for something to be bony, like some kind of food you're eating, it's a lot of bones in it. ʼshiqeq is stingy. ʼushqeq is not stingy or generous. And I don't know, I was using this one because some people are mad that their Alaska checks are going to be smaller, and some of them are mad because there are descendants now who get shares. And I'm biased because I am a descendant. Those are the only shares I have. But it was my land too, and so it's just crazy to me that people argue so much about whether we should share with our kids and grandkids. I don't want to go down that gahwushi, but tushla'an. So if you know how to say tushla'an, you should also know how to say tushla'anch, which would be they are regularly kind, right? So this is the repetitive mode. And so for the repetitive mode, we're going to look at some of the components that go into it. So you have tushla'anch, you'll have, I think you'd say ye tusatinch would be, we see it regularly. Let's go double check that. So one of the things that I want us to figure out how to do is to go to these verbs that we know. Like we know how to say yake ʻuxsatini and suye ʻqwasatin. And we should know by the suye ʻqwasatin that this is a qa conjugation verb. So it's right there. This is our verb. And when we take a look at it, qastin is the command form. Behold it. I don't know, it sounds like I need to do a magic trick or something. Poof, right? But then you have ausatin, ḥusteeyí, right? And there's a few things that we should know about this verb. One is that because it is not zero, it's not zero conjugation, the perfective should be long and low. That is a constant in tlingit. Perfective zero, short and high. Perfective non-zero, long and low. That's for the closed if it ends with a consonant. If it ends with a vowel, it's long and high, long and low. Constant. It's a constant in tlingit. And so it's nice to go sort of get these patterns. We're in this pattern building stage for our tlingit learning. And so when you have the future, you have to have ye in front of it because it is q conjugation. And for the habitual, you're going to get q in it, and you're going to get tinch. And this is something you can learn how to do. You can. And so you could say ḳusteeyí. I see it every time. And then you could say ḳusteeyí. I haven't seen it yet. And then you could say ḳusteeyí, before I saw it. Right? And so like these are sets of patterns that we should, and we'll get there. We'll get there. For now, you could look it up and you could learn how to do these other ones. And ye astinch. So you could also say ye astinch. I see it regularly. Right? Whatever the thing, like there's this raven. It's that same raven I see as Super Bear asking me for my JoJo's or whatever the thing is, right? So you could say ye ḥusteeyí. So it would be ḥusteeyí. And so, but then if you could get to ḳech ye ḥusteeyí, which would be I never see it. So like, but getting to these, I think a sort of a step-by-step type of thing is like, so this adewugud, they went towards there. Adachwugud, they went away from there. Anachwugud, they left it behind. Anachwugud. So like if we know how to do those, right? So then I could copy these and I could say, okay, well, let me try. So I want to do, I can't talk and type at the same time. Okay. So the nice thing here is if I got ade, adach, anach, or ade, adach, anak, and anach. If I wanted to command someone to do it, if I want to say go there, how would I say that? Ade.
Nagu.
So that means all of these. Now I could command someone, go there, get away from that, move away from it. And this is a very handy one to if you were raising kids. Adachnaku, get away from it. Right? Anachnaku, leave it behind. I don't know, your itunigu, anachnagu, walk away from your pain. Anachnagu, go along it, go through it. Again, context is going to drive so much stuff. So now these are command forms for all of that. And then you can get to, it's a little complicated. But if I could put, oops, let's see if I can do this. Ade you igutkik. Igutkik. No, that's it. Shesh ade you igutkik. Igutkik. Don't go there. But now I could say shesh adach you igutkik. Don't go away from there. Shesh anach you igutkik. Don't leave it behind. Shesh anach you igutkik. Don't go through it. And then you can also take this same set. So, I can copy, paste. Oops. But I also have to get this one too. And these are a little bit more complicated. The prohibitives are. But we could take these and we could say, what about they are going to go there? Well, so you have ģukagut. So this is what you're going to have, ģukagut. This is how you say they are gonna. As you have ģuka. However, because this one ends with a vowel. All right, so this one is good for that, but this has to contract. So what happens is we're going to pull that letter. Well, actually, so we have g, u, qa, and a 0. So this is what we have, right? And here, you do have contraction. What happens is this vowel replaces that one. And Tlingit's like, that's fine. You can do that. Little vowel replacement, no big deal. And that's what happens down here. But for this one, you say, okay, this one's going to jump over to this side. And now this one is going to have no vowel. And if that has no vowel, it becomes a K. When you pull that vowel out, G becomes a K. That's just something that happens. So then we get ḳukagut, ʼatudli.átk, ʼatudli.átk, ʼanaqqukagut, ʼanaqqukagut. So it's one, so we're conjugating this ģukagut verb, right? And we're changing, and what conjugation is meaning is they're saying, okay, let's command, let's say do, don't, did. You could say didn't, you could do that. So the didn't one, well, we'll just grab this woogoot I think we have here. Oh, man. No, I'm going to grab this. Okay, hold on. Two-step process. Okay, so if I said this one was woogoot, so what we have here is we have y, we have y, 0, yeah, good. Like if we pull that thing apart, those are the things that we have. So if we say klesh in front of it, what changes? Oops, there's only that, sorry. That's for woogoot. I had an extra thing. Perfective marker, third person subject, plus I classifier, which gets us woogoot. But if we put klesh in front of it, this has to trigger a change.
We need to add the Irialis, don't we?
Yeah, that pops up. These two just kind of blend together. They pretty much always just blend together. But it's good to know it's there. There's one more change.
So classifier, drop the I.
That's right. So the single change here, does anybody know it? Woo.
Short.
And so as we look at all these components, we're going to start taking closer look at these patterns, including building them ourselves. Just building them. We'll do a whole bunch of pattern drills, which is kind of repetitive and not the most exciting thing, but I think it's important to know how to do that. Because this will work. So if I took all of these verbs, so here's nagu, you ikutkik, woogoot, and ģukagut, and woogoot. So we look at that, look at those patterns, and then if we say, oh, I know another na conjugation verb. because I know how to tell people go to sleep. Because I tell them every day when it's bedtime. So it's right here. So here's nata. Oh, that's got na in it. ḳusteeyí. A little different. ḳusteeyí. Ta. ḳuta. Oh, there's that woo. Looks very similar. Here's this woo. Oh, yeah. Here's ḳukahaa. Oh, yeah. Predictable, like totally predictable. The only thing that's changing here is the stem. Okay. Okay. Cheese.
I have one more question, but I think it's going to be a short one.
Okay.
When we were talking about yet earlier, does that mean like yet like I have not ever done this yet, or yet like, oh, I haven't seen that raven that I see every day yet?
Yeah, with those habituals, like it can work both ways. So you could say like, and you would have to, I guess the default meaning for me would be just not yet. But if you say, in my whole life, and now it could be a big dramatic thing, like I've never heard the raven call, like, or whatever the thing is, right? Yeah.
Here's Sheesh.
Well, I never.
Okay, let's get back.
Well, I never.
I have never heard that in my whole life. Okay, here we are in our, back to our story. So we have tuyachiti witzina, lights green. Do achkekadin, can they hear it well? Yakanajuch, yes, it's rolling. Shtakat ye ayu shtakat ya shingit ana at na atchin. The shingit used to always go all over they used to walk all over, I guess. Kaikiti ayu ayach aqdu. Once the people, or I guess this one time, maybe, people were living around the lake. Chagode ayah hastu atchai hastu chait yashunachich. For a long time, their food was, they didn't have very much to eat. It was dwindling. One person was blind. Oops, hold on, let me fix this. We will see, you will be seated right here. Or no, we will seat you right here. The people say to him. Okay. Gets us up to here. Oh wait, let me share the sound. That would probably help. And where is it? Where'd it go? Did you guys hear? Did you hear anything?
Click.
I didn't hear nothing.
Like it started from the beginning, the video.
Okay, that's interesting.
Indak ʼatudli.átk. Indak ʼatudli.átk. Indak ʼatudli.átk. Indak ʼatudli.átk.
I don't know where the sound was going before, but I think it's going the right place now.
Indak ʼatudli.átk.
Let's see. 6 words, I think. The first word is a single letter.
Hi.
Yeah. Okay, so one time somebody did get upset with me because I don't always capitalize my shinget. The main reason, it's not like some big political thing. Like I understand, like in some of like the Black Power movement, No capitalizing. Like I worked at a law library when I was in college, and there was one professor, you never capitalized their name. Like you would get in big trouble. This is not a political statement at all. It's simply this. It's very hard to discern between an uppercase I and a lowercase L. That's all it is. Asx'eit I will get off of my soapbox now. It's not even a soapbox. It's just a letterbox. Okay. What's our second word?
Duck.
I would expect a not conjugation verb right here. Sorry. It's the point in class where I've had too much coffee, not enough lunch. So.
ʻatudli.
Indak ʻatudli ʻátk.
Okay.
He left you.
Well, okay, let's stop here. So, ʻatudli. So what is going on in this verb? So here's this nak thing that we just did because we're predicting the future. So it's to leave behind, right? And what's the verb doing? How do we translate this verb?
We will go.
We will go. So how do we put it all together?
We're going to leave you.
We will leave you.
Okay.
Indak ʻatudli ʻátk.
What the last? I think there's two more words left.
One by one.
ʻátk.
Is it ḳukahaa or is it ḳukahaa?
I heard Ḳukahaa.
ʻātk as well.
Like that?
I heard ḳukahaa,
Ḳukahaa. Okay.
like one person.
ʻátk.
That makes sense. Okay, so this is where it gets like a little tricky. Okay, so you have got a lot of notes here. So we have ḳukahaa, 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 and ḳusteeyí, and ḳukahaa, which I don't think it can, this might rule out ḳukahaa. Okay, so what would ḳukahaa be?
Them.
Yeah, one of them, I guess. What about ḳukahaa? You brush up on our counting skills, one by one. And what about ḳusteeyí? Okay, now we got
One
person.
man.
And what about ḳukahaa?
People one by
One
one.
by one.
One person at a time, one by one, yep. And what about ḳusteeyí?
That one's once, right?
One time.
So maybe it's this. What do you think? What's the consensus? Should we vote on it? I don't want to vote right now.
So ḳukahaa would be what? We skipped that one.
I don't think you would say ḳukahaa. Is that right? Anybody know? Because you could say ḳukahaa, but you'd usually say ḳusteeyí. This is one where like it switches to a different thing. So you'd say dachnach away. Like, here's like a good real life example. I sometimes hear people say, dech, seek, ach, chi. And my personal preference would be, if you were to say something like this, I would say, dachnach away, ach, seek, hus. And what am I saying?
I have 2 daughters.
Yes, but I think in Tlingit you'd say, my daughters are 2 people. That's like the logic of how Tlingit explains those things. It's not always, because English, it uses has and have for like so many different things. And I find us like using jiwu a lot, or I guess you'd say ach jiwu, right? And you'd say dachnachawe ach sikas. So this is like to count people. But I guess like coming back to our story, we might have to look ahead at the next sentence, and then we'll probably run out of time. So we know it's ʼatudli.átk. We're going to leave you behind. I might say ḳukahaa, but we'll see what he says next.
ʼaʻani iti.
So I think on iti is another way to say what on the coast might be yanchuka.
Remains of our town.
The remains of our town. And let me just check. We're doing a basket terminology, I think, on Thursday. Which is, I'm telling you that because we're going to look at this database. It's on baskets. Okay. So if I go here, and we're going to scroll up to on. And see if on iti is there. I don't think it is. So I've heard on iti as camp. Anybody else heard that? Yeah.
Sounds
what
about
it
right.
is. Yep.
What's that?
That sounds about right.
Oh, sorry, we're all speaking at the same time. Our camp or our campsite, sure.
Gdain sin aitu.
Gdain.
Gdain sin aitu.
I couldn't tell if it was seen or seen, like seen or seen pinched.
Gdain sin aitu.
Looks like it's in the chat.
Should be O's though. Should be 2 O's, not 3.
Oh, okay.
That's my fault.
It's okay.
Gdain sin aitu.
Okay. Gdain scene.
Gdain sin aitu.
Maybe, okay. Well, one thing, we're not going to get to this one in time. We have a real cliffhanger here. But there is, so looking at, there's a couple of subject pronoun things I want to just sort of leave us on. There's this vowel rule for these 2 things, tu and I. These are the only ones that subscribe to this rule. So this is we and you, and they have the same rule. And here's the rule. The vowel is short unless there is no vowel in the classifier. Then it is long. So for example, you say, let's do this, wutusatin and yisatin. And so we could also have tuwatin and iatin. So these are short. But then you'd say, well, you'd say, ye gach tusatin. But you'd say, ye wooch gach tustin. So now it has to go long because there is no vowel in that classifier. So, hesh tutin and hesh etin. Okay, so we'll pick up here on Wednesday. We'll get through this. There's a few like kind of complicated sentences in this story. And all in all, like this is a very complex speaker of Tlingit who kind of almost speaks his own dialect. Just he's got such a wonderful way of talking, but it's also, there's a few speakers that are like that where you get to meet them on their field of play. And so, Gulchish go ayakwan takat yuhan qaik atawe hayukatangi ya chate hanai u kwash etu yani katatawe uchin ʻatudli.átk yayagi ya achtuasuku qawa tusaku atatawe ʻatudli.átk chat takat ḳusteeyí qaqa hastu yani atawe kwash hastu khuni hastu kani hastu ish hastu yit una ya kashisikwa at aya chaan qoa achtuasuku takatat utusuku ya hayukatangi da Tlidzi keikuch tlidzi aya hayijini kesh ade chat takat at gachtisku ye qoa kagachtu ak. Yeah. Oh wait. I guess I should have said I'll get it. Kesh ade uchdutsiku. People can't know everything. Like you'll never know everything about Tlingit. We're never gonna claim to, but we're just gonna keep trying to learn more and more and more. Good cheese, Shuhan. Which yay
Sheesh.
Any question?
Cheese.
Iguayakwana hunk.
Cheesh.
So yeah, kwasatin.
yeah, question.
ʻekune.